Number 10. Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was one of the applicants to join Harley's gang of Harleys. Her name is Constance Brand. While she didn't end up becoming one of Harley's Harleys, she did still remain in Harley Quinn comics, and for a time was one of her villains. She's less of an exact alternate and more of an obsessed fan with a grudge. Eventually she and Harley made peace, but recently she has reappeared in the Black Label comic Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, where she was seen taking over Harley Quinn's place as the Joker's wannabe paramour. Here she was tasked with proving herself to the Joker by gruesomely killing a bunch of civilians who Joker felt had wronged him, including his mailman and an ice cream man who didn't happen to have Joker's favorite flavor in stock. It seems that she might once again be plotting to take down Harley Quinn, but this time at Joker's side. Number 9. Bizarro Harley. This version of Harley was a miserable version. She was created using Harley's genetic material and LexCorp's Bizarro creating device, or machine. Bizarro had originally wanted a Bizarro version of Lois Lane to be his perfect bride, but instead was willing to settle for his own version of Harley Quinn. Unfortunately, this version, being the opposite of Quinn, ended up being a huge stick in the mud and the exact opposite of fun. Unlike Harley, Bizarro Harley was a very serious and responsible person. Her speak was also a little weird for a Bizarro character, as well as not everything she said was fully reversed. In the end, Harley defeated her Bizarro self by putting her out of her misery and telling Bizarro Harley she was not lovable, trying to get her to prove she was by saying she was having a good time. This resulted in Bizarro Harley exploding because, you know, it's hard for Bizarros to say things like good and nice. But hey, at least she went out with a bang. Number 8. Injustice. While in the end Injustice ends up being a story of redemption for Harley Quinn as we see her become a full-fledged hero, we have to remember where this whole thing starts and why it is that Harley is working towards redemption in the first place. At the beginning of the story, Harley is still Mr. J's partner in crime, meaning she is also responsible for Lois Lane's brutal death at the beginning of this story, and Jimmy's, as well as all of the chaos that ensues afterwards. For all we know, Harley could have even helped Joker create this notorious plot. Also, poor Jimmy. I feel like because of all the crazy stuff that follows in Injustice, everyone forgets about his brutal death. Shot in the head, right through his camera. R.I.P. Injustice Jimmy Olsen. I'm sorry that you died. I always feel bad for him. We all forget about it. Not me, not today. Number 7. Steven Sejic Harleen. Sejic's Black Label Limited series Harleen is one of the darkest alternates we've seen of Harley yet, as it allows us to dive deep into Harley's psychology in a way we don't usually get to in comics. In this version of Harley Quinn's origin story, a traumatic encounter with the Joker scars the young psychiatrist for life, forever changing her. She later is given funding for a project which could help in the early detection of sociopathic behavior, granting her access to Arkham Asylum and Black Penitentiary, allowing her to study criminals who were held there. She runs into the Joker and decides to face her fears of him by becoming his therapist. He proved to be the perfect patient, causing Dr. Quinzel to become obsessed and extremely protective of the Joker. Over time, also finding she was falling in love with him, losing her sanity as she became more and more infatuated with her patient. Number 6. Arkham Games. In the Arkham video games, Harley became a psychiatrist while training under Dr. Hugo Strange, which is pretty creepy to think about. Unlike most depictions of her as a psychiatrist, she did not this time around seem to have the best of intentions when it came to her patients, but more just a twisted and messed up fascination with the criminal mind. Here it was her ineptitude as a psychiatrist that allowed her to be manipulated by the Joker, not realizing that she was out of her league in treating him, and that he was using her. Dr. Quinzel quickly became obsessed with the Joker, falling madly in love with him, and willing to do anything that he asked of her, becoming his faithful servant who he often mistreated, and seeing Batman as the real villain of the story. Number 5. Haley Fitzpatrick. In Thrill Killer, Harley is instead Haley Fitzpatrick, a young teenage schoolgirl who is the paramour and partner in crime of the Joker. Still in this rendition. Though in this universe, her version of the Joker, Bianca Steeplechase, dies. A lot of people die actually in this alternate story, but not Haley. She is one of the few who survives. She ends up being put in therapy following the death of the Joker, as Bruce Wayne hopes she can be saved and redeemed. In the end, Haley is reported missing and has stopped attending her therapy sessions. Bruce notes that he should go looking for her first thing in the morning, as her family is worried sick. His commentary comes at us over top the images of Haley's parents and brother all shot dead, before cutting to an exterior of their family home up in flames, where we can see Haley dressed once again as Harley Quinn. She is holding a gun and dashing away from the burning home with a smile on her face, implying that in this universe, Harley as a teenage girl kills her own family in cold blood. Woo. Number 4. Neo Joker. In the series Batman White Knight, there are two Harleys. One is the real Harley in Quinzel, and one is an imposter, a fake if you will. The fake version of Harley apparently took over for the real Harley Quinn years ago when the Joker killed Jason Todd. That's when the real Harley left and Marianne Drews stepped in. The Joker was so preoccupied with his schemes that he never even noticed. When he found himself cured of his psychotic nature and returned to try and make amends to Harley, Marianne was the first version he ran into. Marianne herself was of course also crazy and hated that Jack Napier, formerly known as the Joker, had apologized and promised to make amends for how he had mistreated Harley in the past. This version of Harley, Drew's version, would go on to become the Neo Joker, while Jack himself attempted to become a hero. Number 3. White Knight Harley Quinn. The other Harley Quinn from this alternate universe has a much brighter story. She is reunited with the love of her life, and now both of them are able to finally be together in a healthier setting, with him being cured. She agreed to help Jack Napier, and the two are married, both promising one another to be better to each other this time around. If you never thought you'd ship these two together, the Joker and Harley Quinn, this is the story that will likely surprise you and how much you actually love their relationship as it is written here. However, this fairy tale ending does not last for Harley. Jack Napier eventually gives into the darkness and becomes the Joker once more. Harley is left alone, pregnant with his twins, which she eventually gives birth to, and attempts to raise on her own. In a new series, we'll see a continuation of her story, and this time around it's likely to be more dark. In Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn, a new serial killer is out on the rise who seems to be connected to the Joker. The GTO and FBI turn to Harley for help with the case. To protect her children and her city, Harley agrees to help, but in order to do so, will be forced to face her dark past, while juggling motherhood and facing her romantic feelings for Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, who is currently behind bars. Will this alternate be able to look madness in the face once more and survive? We'll have to wait till October to find out. I'm really excited about the series. Hopefully it ends up happening. Please let it happen. Number 2. Azzarello's Harley Quinn. This version of Harley I think is one of the darkest because she also happens to be one of the most quiet. We never get to read her words or hear her voice in the Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo 2008 graphic novel The Joker. Here Harley Quinn is painted as the Joker's solace, his girlfriend and partner in crime. She is mainly seen having intimate moments with the Joker and ruthlessly killing people alongside him. She takes joy in the trail of chaos, bloodshed, and violence that she and the Joker leave behind her though. The closest we get to seeing her speak is seeing her maniacal laughter. Number 1. Harlequin. In the DC animated film Justice League Gods and Monsters, Harley Quinn is known simply as Harlequin, and is a serial killer who murders people, chops them up, and uses their parts to make her own version of the perfect family. Batman eventually tracks her down and she fights him with a chainsaw. In the end, however, she becomes injured by the chainsaw herself and attempts to surrender. However, this version of Batman himself is a monster. This version of Batman is the vampire and former scientist Kirk Langstrom. Instead of allowing Harley Quinn to surrender, he sinks his fangs into her neck, drinking her blood. Number 10. Harley Hyena. In the Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover animated film based on the comic crossover miniseries, Harley found herself transformed into a hyena when the Joker exposed the prisoners of Arkham to a mutant gen that turned them all into all sorts of animals. Harley herself at least became an animal she is usually depicted as being fond of, which is why this point is lower on the list. At least she's still alive as well. I mean, things could be a lot worse. But still, I don't think Harley herself signed up for the hyena life, and seeing all of the inmates as animals, some of which are quite deadly, is pretty twisted and wild. Number 9. Constellation Harley. This version of Harley comes to us from the Emperor Joker storyline, where Joker tricks Mr. Mxyzptlk into giving him 99.9% of his power instead of the 1% he had originally intended to give him. Now, for those of you who don't condone the way I just pronounced Mr. Mixie's name, by the way, I actually got it from Mr. Mixie himself in the original Superman cartoon, so you're gonna have to take that up with him. I'm trying to do my best to stay true to his name. During Joker's time wielding this massive amount of power as Emperor Joker, he does a whole bunch of wild and crazy things, one such thing being turning Harley into a constellation. Yep. Joker apparently meant this as, I guess, some kind of sweet gesture, but honestly it sounds like some form of mythological torture that a god would use to punish a mortal. I have never been a constellation myself before, but I'm assuming it's not as fun as it appears. Number 8. Dark Prince Charming. This version of Harley Quinn from the Dark Prince Charming series is all kinds of messed up. In this reality, Harley is still with the Joker and is still obsessed with him, despite the fact that he consistently seems to disappoint her and is of course still very obsessed with Batman. In this reality, Batman has a daughter whom Joker kidnaps as part of a plot to both kill Batman and get Harley a big diamond necklace for her birthday. Harley herself at least tries to save Batman's daughter, but she also seems super concerned that this child is trying to steal her man, which is just... it's all kinds of icky, really. To that level of ick, Harley also seems flattered when Joker puts 16 candles on her birthday cake because to him, she'll always be sweet 16. Yikes. If a man said that to me, I'd be like, what? I'd like to be out of this, thank you. Number 7. Injustice Comics. Well, we've talked about Harley Quinn in the Injustice games, which are set in the same universe. There is something that comes up specifically in the Injustice comics that I didn't really get to talk about last time that I felt we needed to touch on just because it is actually so dark and weighty. In the comics, we learn that Harley Quinn and the Joker in this reality had a child together. Now, that is pretty dark in and of itself, imagining these two supervillains as parents. But what's more awful is that Harley Quinn didn't want the Joker to know about the baby. In a sense, she just didn't want to distract or bother him when it came to his main pursuit of his criminal career. So she left for about a year to give birth to this baby. And the Joker apparently never noticed that she was gone. Wow. That's dark. Number 6. Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo is the alternate version of Harley Quinn from the Flashpoint timeline. This version of Harley just goes to show that she doesn't need a typical Joker to continue to be dark. Like her thrill killer counterpart, Yo-Yo works with a female alternate of the Joker. In this reality, her alternate Joker is Martha Wayne, driven criminally insane following the loss of her son Bruce. Yo-Yo here is shown ruthlessly fighting Batman and is the one responsible for helping Martha Wayne's Joker to kidnap Judge Dent's children. So straight away we know that Yo-Yo is a twisted and loyal villainous sidekick who means business and isn't above causing harm to children, or anyone else for that matter. Number 5. Death Metal Harley. Death Metal Harley has an obviously more metal look than her main continuity counterpart, and also gives me some kind of Mad Max vibes as well, which I'm loving. Maybe that's just because she's from the Arkham Wastelands, I don't know. This version of Harley rides around on a motorbike and has a short buzz cut, though still sports her famous red and black hair that we've seen many times before in the comics. She also wears a variation of her Jester suit, but this one is more tactical looking, complete with metal knee pads and of course some badass spikes on the wrists and on the hems of her pants. She also has tons of pouches, which I love. You know me, big into 90s comics, I love my pouches. And she can sometimes be seen wearing a protective clear plastic or glass cylindrical helmet. We recently got a closer look at the Death Metal Harley and learned more about the origins of her massive pet hyena in the Dark Knight's Death Metal Guidebook. That was a fun dark alternate, that one. Not so sad or icky. Number 4. Criminal Sanity. Criminal Sanity is a series that comes to us from the Black Label line, and it is overall pretty dark. The alternate version of the Joker in this is also pretty twisted. Harley in this version is a doctor turned investigator after she comes home one evening to her roommate Edie dead in the bathtub. There are also definitely some little similarities to Ivy in terms of Edie's look when she is found in the bathtub dead, which I thought was just an interesting design choice to help readers draw parallels between Harley and Edie's relationship and the close friendship and romance that Harley and Ivy share in the main continuity. Joker is the one believed behind the crime due to his signature trademark being left behind. But in this reality, he also boasts of another sort of trademark. As opposed to it being all smiles, his victims tend to be surgically manipulated in some way, causing them to resemble art. It's like Harley is stuck in a criminal mystery horror movie here akin to the film Seven. Number 3. Echo. In the live action show Gotham, we get to see into the origin of many characters who are sort of the rogues and heroes of Gotham City, and also sort of not. These are definitely definitely alternates, and in many cases their origins offer different takes on the characters. In the case of the Joker, we have Jeremiah, and in the case of Harley, we instead have Echo. Echo was Jeremiah's loyal assistant even before he lost his mind, but once Jeremiah became a dark and twisted criminal, Echo was so devoted to him that she also chose to follow him faithfully down this path as well. There is nothing that Echo wouldn't do for her own version of Mr. J, and no one who would be safe from her if Jeremiah wished they come to harm, including Echo herself. This is what makes her one of the most deadly and dark alternates of Harley around. Number 2. Batman the Animated Series. It's kind of funny to me that we even consider this version of Harley Quinn as an alternate now, as really this was the original version of her character, as she first appeared in the Batman Animated Series in 1992 in the episode Joker's Favor. But now her comic version has become known as the main, as, you know, comics are usually where we get a lot of inspiration for film and television, not the other way around. Except, I guess, in rare instances like with Harley Quinn. What's so dark about Harley in the animated series? Well, her attachment to the Joker and her mistreatment. This version of Harley is pretty dark as well because it showcases a time in Harley's life where her puddin' was everything to her. No matter how many times he hurt or literally tried to kill her, she always came back. And to me, that is both sad and the most dark. Number 1. The Joker. Sort of. In Batman Damned, the Joker is believed dead, which Batman is in the process of investigating, not knowing whether or not he is the one who killed him. During this time, he runs into Harley Quinn, who appears to be doing her best Joker impersonation. This version of Harley is the darkest on the list because of how damaged and twisted she has become here, and she also assaults Batman, which is pretty messed up. Harley genuinely seems to have been so attached to the Joker that she no longer cares if she lives or dies, or who or how she hurts others now that he is gone, expressing as much to Batman before attempting to take him on herself in her own really twisted way. She also is covered in tons of stitches and scars, implying that she has gone through some kind of torture, likely at the hands of the Joker himself.
Number 10. Echo. We need to go to the TV series Gotham for this version of Harley, who is technically not Harley, just like how neither Jerome or Jeremiah on that show are technically supposed to be the Joker, but rather they're supposed to be proto-Jokers, to which I say, nice try, Jan. Echo was introduced as Jeremiah Valeska's assistant, who would stick by his side even after he went insane. She would help him do anything, including coming up with a plan to destroy Gotham City and starting a church to him, a cult. That was during the No Man's Land arc. Her costume has the Harley colors and cues and sometimes even designs. She even has the painted face. She has that devotion, but she's not Harley. Nope. Look, if we call her Echo, we don't have to pay for anything. This version of Harley is scary because she doesn't seem to have much of a will of her own to question anything. She's loyal to a fault and willing to die and kill for Jeremiah. They say it's hard to find good help these days, but when it's this loyal, it can be deadly. She actually only appeared in a handful of episodes too. Number 9. Batman Damned. Now, when most people talk about Batman Damned, they talk about the controversy of the naked Batman panel, where you see full frontal Batman. That is now a collector's edition because they don't print it like that anymore. Also, we probably couldn't show it because, well, YouTube. But there is also a pretty scary version of Harley in that comic, one that first appears masquerading as the Joker, and has been seemingly even more unhinged by his apparent demise. So she and Batman get into a scuffle on a rooftop, where she manages to get the upper hand, and she then proceeds to attempt to sexually assault him. But that gets no play, it's the bat peen that's the problem. Priorities. Things do not end well for this Harley, as under the influence of the Enchantress, Batman ends up strangling her. So yeah, Batman Damned, a lot happened. Also a Joker face on a Jesus statue. Lots of choices if you feel like taking the comic to task. Number 8. Harleen. Now this is low because it's a retelling of her origin. It happens under the DC Black label, but it's put together so artfully that it feels new. It takes the character back to her roots while granting her an agency. A true agency she hasn't had in years. The ability to be shown as well-rounded, and the descent into Harley is tragic but relatable. This Harley is scary because she's so easy to understand. Some people who read the story have gone, you know what? For the first time, I got it. I got why you would want to go with the Joker, why you would want to be Harley. The whole story allows the reader to make their own decision about what happened and who or what caused it, and that in and of itself is cause to rejoice. A comic that treats you like you're smart enough to form your own opinion, whatever it is. Also, the art is beautiful. Okay, I'll calm down. Number 7, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey TV show. While Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn, later renamed to Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey because no matter how you felt about it, let's be real, that's what it was. Also, those were some Elseworlds Birds of Prey in that movie. Anyway, that was not the first time the character was associated with a version of the Birds of Prey. This adaptation on the TV series is loose too, but hey, at least it has Barbara in it. It comes from the early 2000s. In this universe, Harley is still a psychiatrist, but she has ties to the Joker, or had, and no one knows it. This is a very different Harley, not a manic pixie bad girl, but a manipulative, cold, calculating character. Some say that this version is boring, and compared to some of the others, she's definitely less vibrant. But she's also more cunning and had the potential to do some lasting damage. And because of her position, get away with it. It's always nice when people play with the psychologist part of Harley. Number 6, Haley Fitzpatrick. This Harley is from Earth 37, or the Earth where Thrill Killer 62 takes place. She's involved with Bianca Steeplechase, that universe's Joker. The two end up getting engaged and wreaking a lot of havoc and mayhem together. Also, Harley's a schoolgirl here, which many people ignore because the Joker here is female, but I don't. This Harley is scary because after Bianca is killed by Batgirl, she doesn't give up on this life of crime. No, she doubles down on it, and is shown murdering her own family so that she can get revenge and become a super criminal in her own right. Just yikes. Thrill Killer has a mixed reception in the realm of Elseworld stories. Number 5, Yo-Yo. This version of Harley comes from the world of Flashpoint, which was the world created when Barry Allen went back in time to save his mom from being murdered by the Reverse Flash. The result was a timeline with an Earth on the brink of collapse. Atlantis and Themyscira at war, no Superman, Bruce died in that alley causing his dad to become Batman and his mom to become the Joker. So that's who this Harley is helping, Martha Wayne. And she's willing to go hard. When we meet her, she's kidnapping Harvey Dent's kids. And then edgy Thomas Wayne Batman drops her off a roof, and she's only saved because Cyborg catches her. This version is scary because, well, most of Flashpoint is, and the fact that it ends in the New 52, even scarier. Speaking of that, brings us to number 4. Number 4, the New 52. The New 52 would see a big shift in Harley, from costume to origin to tone her character was written in. Gone was the jester outfit, in was a corset, bustier, and hot pants, and hair like, well, mine. At first, she would be even more unhinged and dedicated to the Joker. She would throw herself into a vat of acid to show her dedication to him, her devotion. She would put his face on Deadshot after he cut it off. The Joker cut off his own face for a bit in New 52. Also, the abusive aspect of their relationship would be brought front and center, and nuance and discussion would leave. Harley would now become a power fantasy of how to leave an abusive relationship rather than a discussion about them, which would leave her with only one direction, leaving him. Obviously, which was nothing new, but also striking out on her own again, which was also not new. But now it was permanent, and she would be a villainess in her own right. This would be toned down over time, and she would veer more towards anti-hero territory, and be joined by on-again, off-again girlfriend Poison Ivy, who would end her best girl status and lose all of her motivation except being devoted to Harley. For many, this Harley would become the Harley, and her solo series would soar. This version of Harley is scary because you're never quite sure what she's gonna do next. Is she gonna try to revitalize a neighborhood or blow up a building and kill several children? You just never know. Number 3, Batman/Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So not gonna lie, this ended up higher than I expected. But I mean, it's not every day you're turned into a mutant hyena. This crossover comic ran from December 2015 to May of 2016. And it actually works well. The Turtles have some grit. Their original comics were pretty dark, so they're not out of place hanging with Batman in the Batcave. And Shredder is a threat no matter what universe he's in. For poor Harley, that means being spliced into a mutant hyena, which I guess was the choice, because since the animated series, Harley has had pet hyenas, which were an appropriate Joker-themed pet because their call sounds like they're laughing. Number 2, Suicide Squad, the DCEU. Yes, the DCEU version is an alternate version. If you're not from the Earth where the character originated from, you're an alternate. So in this case, Prime Harley would be from the DC animated series. This was Harley's first big screen debut, but not live action because that was Birds of Prey, the series. The look the character had in this film would become iconic, despite the fact that the director of the Birds of Prey film now claims it was problematic and forced the first director of Suicide Squad, David Ayer, to apologize. I mean, there is one shot I can think of that was a lot of lot. You know the one. She bends over to get the bag out of the window of the store. I know where else I've seen shots like that, and so do you. Despite this, her look has become one of the most cosplayed and one of the most desired costumes out there. This Harley is scarily popular. She is the only thing to survive that Suicide Squad essentially, and launched a whole new craze of Harley mania, and it's not going away anytime soon. Number 1. Marion Drews. This version of Harley hails from the Batman White Knight universe, a comic series that acknowledged that Harley pre-New 52 and post are so different that they could conceivably be two different women. And here they are. Marion Drews is the second Harley, and Joker never even noticed the change. This Harley is drawn to mayhem and madness, and loves Joker because he is crazy, and because of the license that gives her to do what she wants. When he seems to be going sane and proposes to her, she rejects him, and instead becomes a new Joker until he comes back to his senses. This Harley is scary because she is a version who is using the Joker as an excuse to let out her own impulses that were always there and just looking for a catalyst. She chose the Harley life. The Harley life didn't choose her. So those were 10 scary alternate versions of Harley Quinn. Which version of Harley is your favorite, or is she a bit played out for you? Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching Top 10 Nerd. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye!